All righty, we will begin our hearing tonight. Matthew, you calling roll? Please, sir.
Ms. Atkinson, Mr. Ferguson, Dr. Fitz,
Here.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Mr. Lockwood,
Here.
Ms. Price,
Here.
Chair Davenport.
Here. Unless there's any addition, changes, or corrections to last month's minutes, motion to accept, please.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lockwood, second by Mr. Howell.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Dr. Fitz,
Pass.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do in order to get your request approved and or denied. Mr. Hodges, you're here now.
Mr. Chairman, on all these applications tonight, I would ask that the joint zoning ordinance of Bowling Green, Warren County be made a part of the record along with any elements which are in effect tonight. The staff reports and any exhibits that are attached to those reports should also be made a part of the record. If you would take this opportunity as well, to swear in Amy Scott, Rachel Hurt, Jenny Willoughby, and recognize their qualifications as zoning administrators for the purpose of rendering expert testimony tonight.
You ladies swear to tell the truth? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's see, on the agenda, we have, all five involve requests for a conditional use permit, and the last one also is an application for a variance. With respect to the variance, the findings that the board must make are set forth in KRS 100.243. The board must find that the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of requirements of the zoning regulations. On all the other requests for conditional use permits, there are certain findings that must be made, and those are actually set forth in the zoning ordinance itself in section 3.9.5. The board must find that the requested conditional use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed, that the use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use adequately addresses the review criteria, that the use will not constitute a nuisance, and that it adequately addresses the review criteria in section 394, and also that's in compliance with all the other requirements of the zoning regulations, which includes any specific use standards which each of these will have. Now, I mentioned the review criteria in section 3.9.4, and I cannot stress this enough. The ordinance reads that the board shall not approve a conditional use permit unless the applicant adequately addresses the review criteria as may apply to the requested use. Compatibility is part of that review criteria. So the burden of proof is upon the applicant to adequately address the fact that the requested conditional use is compatible with the general vicinity. In the event that a decision is rendered here tonight that anyone is dissatisfied with, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that goes directly to Warren Circuit Court. In order to prevail, you need a majority vote of all present tonight. So it looks to me like my math says a vote of 3 affirmative votes. A pass vote has no force or effect. And Mr. Chairman, I think that sums it up.
Thank you, sir. Our first request tonight, Living Hope Baptist Church Missionary, Inc., has filed an application for a conditional use permit to operate a religious institution, more specifically to expand the existing church use to include temporary foster care housing on the property located at 2225 Small House Road. This property is zone RS-1A, single-family residential, and F floodplain.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Amy, yes, ma'am.
We had a pre-application meeting on April the 29th for the property that you mentioned, and it is highlighted in red on your screen. The current zoning is RS1A and F for floodplain. The current land use is single-family residential. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a religious institution, more specifically to expand the existing church campus to include temporary foster care housing. The main church campus is located adjacent to the property across Small House Road at 1805 Weston Street. And site plans can be found on pages 7 and 8 of your packets for reference. Looking down to the zoning ordinance reference, in Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a religious institution on property zoned RS1A. Applicants did supply a list of conditions. Number 1, no more than 6 occupants will be permitted on the property in conjunction with the conditional use. Number 2, no more than 3 vehicles at a time will be permitted on the property in conjunction with the conditional use. Number 3, no signage will be used on the property. Number 4, should Living Hope Baptist Church and/or its affiliates cease to own and operate the temporary foster care housing, the conditional use permit shall terminate. And number 5, only the existing property and structure located at 2225 Small House Road shall be utilized for the temporary foster care use. And below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. But looking to points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony and any discussion there might be.
All right. Any questions from the board or the staff? I think we may have just a question of the applicant. Would someone from the applicant please step up, please?
Good
And
afternoon,
you are?
Chairman. Tad Pardue, 1010 College Street. I represent the church
No
on this
problem.
application.
I don't think we've had a foster care housing before. Do you remember one, John? That I remember? Just so we'll know exactly what we're voting on. Just exactly what is this? How does it operate?
Sure.
What's the plans for it?
Chairman, I think I can speak to that, but I think the board would probably better be served if they heard that from Daniel Super, who's with me. He's an elder with the church.
That'd be fine,
He
sure.
can probably articulate it in a much better way than I can. if
No
that's
problem at
okay.
all. Just so we'll know what we're approving. That's,
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And we need to swear you in, though. If you give us your full name and address.
Do I? Yeah. Daniel Super, personal address?
Uh-huh.
469 Adeline Circle, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42104.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Absolutely.
Like I said, just kind of give us an idea of what this facility is going to be.
Sure. So you've probably seen this in the news, or maybe this hits close to home, certainly does for me as my wife and I are foster parents, but there's a bit of an epidemic happening in the foster community wherein kids are coming into care and not being immediately placed, and that means they have to stay all night at the DCBS offices on Lover's Lane. We have a whole contingency of our social work heroes here that can testify to that fact, but it's happening very frequently. That place was not meant to be a residence. There's nowhere to shower or wash your clothes or anything. And so we thought that it's our mission to care for the orphan, and we want to provide an actual home so these kids who are in this tragic part of their life where they've been removed from their parents until they can be placed in a foster care home, have a place that they can have a bed and a shower and they can wash their clothes, supervised, of course, by the social workers until they find them a more permanent place to stay. So that's the way we would use it. It would be transient. I mean, kids, when they come into care, it may be one night, it may be 2 or 3 nights, but the social workers have to have some time to find them a place to.
So there's 6 occupants primarily, and you're going to have 1 or 2 staff people. Is that the 3 vehicles?
That's right.
Yeah, so you're not going to have a lot of traffic going in and out of there.
No traffic going in and
Okay.
out. I mean, a couple of vehicles for the social workers who are there supervising the children, and at any given time, maybe 2 kids, but most frequently 1 child at a time.
And there is parking in the back where they can turn around in the back and pull out on Small House Road,
That's
not have
correct.
to back out
That's
on the
correct.
road. Okay.
That's right.
All right. Any questions from the board of the applicant?
What age group are we talking about?
Any child who comes into state care, so 0 to 18, unless I'm misspeaking, 0 to 18, yeah. Always supervised by the social workers charged with their care.
Okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicants? Any questions, board? Thank you very much, sir. Is there any opposition to this request? Do we have any opposition? Motion, please.
I make a motion we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-18 for a religious institution located at 2225 Small House Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that the use is certainly not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, and the zone which is proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And it is certainly a compatible use in the setting of a church.
It's a proper motion.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by
Second.
Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, gentlemen. Thank you all for coming down. Good luck, that's a nice thing to do. Appreciate it. Our next request tonight, Justin Moore has filed an application for conditional use permit in order to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 7080 Deering Road. Now, this property is zoned AG Agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get started, there should have been a letter of concern in your all's packets. And so moving into the staff report, we had a pre-application meeting for the property over on Old Deering Road back in May. The current zoning of the property is ag. Current land use is single-family residential. And there is their site plan for y'all's reference. It can also be found on page 7 of the staff report. And the applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. Looking down to the zoning ordinance reference, the provision of the zoning ordinance from which the CUP is requested is located Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table. A CUP is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned ag. The specific use standards for a short-term rental are found on the bottom of page 7 and bottom of page 1, excuse me. Moving on to page 2, their conditions are found at the beginning of page 2, and they have agreed to 4. Number 1, maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 3 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And number 4, turnaround areas in front and rear for guest ease and safety when leaving the property. The conditional use permit findings are there on the bottom of page 2 for your all's reference. And then looking back to page 1 with some points to consider. The board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the ag zone. The board should also consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area and if it will alter the character of the area, as there are no other short-term rental uses in the vicinity. The board should also consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the county if the existing single-family home is converted into a short-term rental. And that's all that we have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions of Jenny from the board? Any questions of Jenny?
Jenny, I just want to make sure that the letter of concern has made a part of the staff file.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Would you step up, please? We need to swear you in. We need to get your full name and address, please.
Justin Moore, 589 Ben T. Johns Road in Alvaton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. First question I've got is the compatibility of putting a business that can be described as a mini hotel right in the middle of a primarily residential neighborhood. How is it compatible with it?
I've spoke with all the neighbors, and everybody is actually pretty welcoming on the idea. For the last 30 years, the house has kind of been a junky area, so we've invested money and time into making the property more presentable and marketable, but we've had no, negative feedback based on that.
But we're also opening up a business in a neighborhood. Are there any other businesses in that area that you're aware of?
Just small business, construction, things like that.
I didn't even see that. Is there any multifamily residential area out there? Any duplexes, apartments, nothing like that? It's all pretty much I noticed on the zoning map, it's zoned agricultural and RE, which is residential estate, which is pretty much the same thing as single-family residential.
Correct.
And the problem we have is we're putting businesses in single-family neighborhoods. And once you open the door, you're not concerned about that happening all throughout there?
No, I wouldn't even consider this a neighborhood. There's really maybe one neighbor within 2,000 feet. So there's just not much traffic. It's a really rural area, primarily just farmland.
Are you concerned that, as you say, this is a rural area and what have you, of people renting that to have big parties?
No, sir.
But that does happen a lot in air nubs, you know that.
Yes, sir.
And they say it doesn't, but it does happen a lot. And that's the location where the right people find out that it's sitting there and there's nobody around there except for just a few feet away, that they can just go out there and do whatever they want to. Does that not concern you?
I'm not saying it's not a concern as the property owner, but we do our best to vet, all the people coming through there, speaking to them personally over the phone and kind of understand their intention and reason to be here.
I know a lot of places they'll only rent to adults.
Correct.
Which that's fine. But then there's a lot of parents that are renting and tell their kids, go have your high school graduation party. There's 200 kids showed up, and it just happened in Nashville. And ended up, one of the kids got killed. The neighborhood was, totally destroyed for a night, 2 days. And this is concern that we have on these businesses, many hotels, going in areas like this.
I understand.
Okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicant? Questions of the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any opposition to this request? Opposition? Motion, please.
So there's no opposition? I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-19 for a short-term rental. I'm sorry, I need to ask him one question before
Sure.
I do that.
Doctor, you want to come back up to the podium, please?
You agree that this conditional use permit will be null and void if the property is sold?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
That it? Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Again, I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-19 for a short-term rental located at 708 Old Deering Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report, with a single addition concerning the conditional use permit. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare in the zone which is proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that it otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It seems overall compatible in its present location.
Proper motion.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second. Second by Ms. Price. If you vote against this, give your reasoning why, just for the statement of fact, whatever reason you vote against the motion. Sorry, go ahead.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes?
Mr. Howell,
No. I think with it being on a curve like that, it would be not a safe situation.
Mr. Lockwood,
No. Because it doesn't meet the requirements of, in a residential district.
Okay.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
I vote no. I feel like it does alter the character of the neighborhood and is not in accordance with our comprehensive planning and zoning. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. Your request has been denied, sir. Our next request tonight Wat Ahem Maim Jai applicant and Hin Bong Sun owner have filed an application for a conditional use permit in order to operate a religious institution on the property located at 255 Grassland Court. This property is zoned AG Agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on May the 13th for the property that you mentioned. The current zoning is agriculture. The current land use is single-family residential. And the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a religious institution. The applicants applied for a CUP in 2016 for a religious institution at the same location, which was denied by the Board of Adjustments. They did supply a site plan on page 7 of your packets for reference. Looking at the zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a religious institution on property zone ag. Below are the set of conditions that the applicant supplied. Number 1, there shall be a maximum of 15 people in the congregation, except in the case of a designated special event. In such case, the maximum number of people on the property shall not exceed 100. Designated special events will be limited to four events per calendar year. Number 2, operating hours for Sunday service, Buddhist meditation, and Buddhist worship-related activities shall occur between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Sunday. Operating hours for individual advice and prayer appointments with the pastor or monk will occur by appointment only, and operating hours for designated special events shall be limited to 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Number 3, parking for the proposed use shall be located on the property and not in the public right-of-way for Grassland Court. Number 4, the total square footage of all structures on the property shall not exceed 5,000 square feet. Flipping over to page 2, continuing on to number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. And number 6, applicants must apply for a change of use permit for the existing residential structure, building permit for the existing carport, and sign permit for the existing sign through the Warren County Building Department. Below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. Looking back at page 1 for the points to consider, the Board of Adjustment should consider if the operation of a religious institution is compatible with the agricultural zone and the existing adjacent residential uses, and the board should consider if the proposed use will result in increased traffic congestion or constitute a nuisance in the area. That's all we have for a staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the staff from the board?
How is this different from the 2016 proposal?
Sure, so they did supply, I brought the old folder here. The conditions were fairly similar. Would you like me to read the 2016 conditions
Well,
that
I would just
were-
sort of summarize if there's any significant difference.
There was. They finally, in this round, they did establish that there would be 4 events per calendar year that would be, up to 100 people. That wasn't in the previous application. Their parking was not in the previous application, but they've established that it'll be on property and won't utilize any right-of-way parking for that. I think that was a concern last application. I think that they maybe nailed down some of their operating hours. They fine-tuned those for more residential area, I believe. So those were the changes.
Very similar.
Fairly similar, but they did beef up some of their conditions.
Any other questions of the staff? Who's representing the church? I need somebody to come up. We got some questions for you. We need your full name and address, please.
Tita Freiberger, 538 East Daisy Lane, New Albany, Indiana, 47150.
Did you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We kind of mentioned parking. On your diagram here, it shows you got parking for 20 cars, which that's fine if you've got 15 people in the congregation. But when you have these big events with up to 100 people, where are you going to park all the cars?
Well, we provided the gravel parking on both sides, and we also have a gravel parking behind the existing pavilion right now.
And do you feel,
The parking requirement for a religious institution is one person for every 4 seat, or one parking space for every 4 seats. So there are 20 parking spaces for their 100 guests on special events would meet that requirement.
that complies? Okay.
25, I'm sorry.
Do you think this is compatible with that neighborhood? It's all single-family residential. I mean, it's just families that live there. I know it's not a business, but there's a lot of activity going on at your church. You think it would, does it fit in with the neighborhood? How does it fit in?
Families who live there are members.
I'm sorry. We need to swear you in, ma'am.
My name is Teresa.
We need, if you're going to answer, we need to swear you in.
I'm sorry. My name is Teresa Christmas.
And do you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
All right. Your full name and address for me.
Teresa Ann Christmas, 228 Dove Trail, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42101.
So you don't live in this neighborhood either?
I don't, but I visited the temple, and I know that many of the residents of that neighborhood are members of the temple.
We'll let them speak to that
All right.
themselves. But still, you're putting a big, large church in a small, single-family residential neighborhood.
And
We
there
had
are
this-
many churches in Bowling Green in many neighborhoods, and
And
many
you-
are applying for zoning right now.
Right, and
And
just-
so I
just-
don't see this as being much different from
Just a
the
few
others.
months ago, we had a very similar circumstance on Matlock Road, where there's a neighborhood like that, and we had to turn it down because it's just not compatible with the neighborhood. Yes, you're right, there are a lot of church neighborhoods, but a lot of them, the churches were there, and the neighborhoods built around them. Now we're trying to put churches in the middle of an established neighborhood. It's kind of like,
I did see online that there are many applying currently, so I will just see how that all goes. But they do own 5 acres. That makes a lot of room for an extended parking lot if that's what you're worried about.
and it does make a lot of room for a lot of people in a small neighborhood.
It's a very small neighborhood, not very many houses. Yes,
Right,
sir.
exactly. Okay, all right. Any questions of the applicant from the board?
Yes, what about the concerns about traffic on that very small, narrow road off a major artery when you have such a large number of people come to your church?
We haven't had any concerns with traffic, sir. Everyone just, it's a two-way driveway, and they just come in, and most of the time they carpool, so we don't get the numbers that you're worried about, a lot of cars. It's actually one family piled into one.
When you say we're not
Car.
having any concerns with traffic now, are you operating this as a church now?
No, sir, it's just when we have special event, which we apply for.
You were turned down for a church a few years ago. So
we
what are
have-
you doing there?
When we have special events, like a special gathering.
Help me.
There's an option in the zoning ordinance to apply for a temporary use permit a handful of times per year. And so since 2016, they've only been hosting a limited number of events, and they've been applying for permits through the county
Okay.
each time they do
I wasn't
that.
aware we had something like that.
I know we have that.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicants? Any other questions? Thank you. Opposition? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Would you come up, please? We need to get your full name and address, please.
Linda Pardue. I'm at 217 Grassland Court.
And you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do, sir.
You go right ahead.
Not really in opposition. These people are good neighbors. Since 2016, and I had the original proposal here, I was here then. The only issue I have is the traffic, but the main issue is the noise. They do have a special event 3 times a year, and it goes until 11 p.m. That's their self-imposed hours that they've set. I think if it stopped at 10, because there are loudspeakers outside projecting drums and singing and just lots of noise in our residential area. And that's the only issue I have, is the noise that late at night, because there are only 12 families in this cul-de-sac. One exit, one entrance. So I just wondered also about how the planning was set up for how many cars for this little cul-de-sac to handle safely. That's all.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any other opposition to this request? Yes, sir. Mhm. Well, you're not in opposition, are you?
Yeah, I'm her sister, brother, the owner of the temple.
You're not in opposition, though, are you? You're not against this, are you?
No, I'm not against it.
Is there any other opposition before we let him start? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your full name and address?
Yeah, my name is Thorn San. I live here, I came to America in 1978.
What's your address?
Yeah, I live in Westchester, Ohio now.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now go ahead.
I want to tell you a little story. I came to America when I was 15 years old, sponsored by Mr. Deputy and Dr. Deputy. And these are my friends. Know them like almost all my life, in the last 30, 40 years. I'm one of the first Asians that come to this country, And, Cambodia been through a lot. Communists, 3 or 4 million people die. The only thing that hold together is religion. Religion that bring people together, That's all we got. And then in 2010, I came to Crossland Court where my sister built a temple. We never have a problem. We always enjoy each other, Even 3 times a year, we respect the rule of law. Before 12 o'clock, we all go home. And we never had a problem, And all we want to do is just asking for coexistence. We can live together, And this religion is not like we want to do it. It's just like the way of life, This thing hold our community together, I just want you guys to understand that, But we do respect the rule of law, whatever the law requires. But sometimes it's just like one apple around the whole apple. We never had a problem before, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I drive 4.5 hours to come over here because of this situation, Bowling Green is my home. I know everything about Bowling Green, That's why I come here. I want to see everybody live together, coexisting, We all can live together. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. On these 4 events, how long do they last? 2 days, 1 day, 2 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours?
Sometimes it lasts a whole day, Your Honor, to about 11:30. We all go home and we all take care of each other. And the land is enough for everybody. When we bought the land over there, not many people live over there. My sister bought like extra lot on the side, and everybody part of my sister home, and sometimes part my brother home over there, and then we have a lot more land to park, and then everybody take care of each other. We never had a problem. Look at the belief report. We never had a problem,
Any questions, this gentleman from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Any other opposition or question? Motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-20 for a religious institution located at 255 Grassland Court with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it's proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. Use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And that in view of the fact that this church has been able to have special events since 2016 without any problems. I feel like it is compatible with the board's recommendations.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by
Second.
Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
I vote yes this time, only because I didn't know they had temporary permits, and if they've been doing it. Ma'am, if they get out of hand, you need to call up somebody and let them know. Sorry. Thank you very much. Our next request tonight, where am I? Okay. Jamie Lee Stewart Nos has filed an application for conditional use permit in order to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 1098 Ben T. Johns Road. This property is zoned AG Agricultural. If y'all will go ahead and leave so we can finish our meeting if you want to. You don't have to stay, but you can stay if you want to, but we need to be quiet, yeah. Give me just a second to get out,
Okay.
Thank you all. Good luck. You ready? Think you're ready?
Okay.
Think you're here all right now?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I've already read it, so you're,
Okay, so I can speak a little bit louder for a second.
yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay. We had a pre-application meeting for the property on Ben T. Johns Road in May. The current zoning of the property is ag. Current land use is single-family residential. And their request can be found on page 7, their site plan. And there it is for your all's reference as well. They are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. The zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned ag. The specific use standards are there on the bottom of page 1 for your all's reference. Moving over to the conditions on page 2. Number 1, there will be a maximum of 3 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 3 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 4, no signage on the property. And number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Conditional use permit findings are there below for reference as well. And then looking back to some points to consider on page 1, the board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the ag zone. The board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including single-family residential uses that are located adjacent to the property. And the board should also consider if the proposed use will alter the character of the area, as there are no other short-term rental uses located in the vicinity. That's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the staff of the board? Questions of the staff of the board? Applicants here? Would you step up, please? We need to swear you in. Your full name and address, please?
Jamie Lynn Stewart Noes, 1098 Ben T. Johns Road, Alberton, Kentucky, 42122.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
All right, how is this business mini hotel compatible with the neighborhood?
It is very close to Cason's Cove, which is a wedding venue. So to further support families that are attending to the wedding that are out of town. It is also in an area where I think there is, remains of Johnson Park. There's a total rehaul of that for the kayaking. And then I think Fillmore Park has just also been made more accessible for kayakers. So it would be used to, people out that want to stay out in the county and be involved in things like that. I would support them.
But the use of the neighborhood is single-family residential.
Yes, I know all my neighbors very well, and everybody is okay
And
with
you're
it.
wanting to open up a business in this neighborhood.
And overnight.
It is a business.
Short-term rental.
It is a business.
Yes, sir.
People
Yes,
say
sir.
it's not, but it's a business.
Okay, yes,
You
sir.
have to get a license, you pay taxes on it.
Right.
When you file your income tax, I'm sure you have to show your business income from that property.
Yes, sir.
And we're concerned about the traffic in that area and the compatibility. I mean, there's no, as previous testimony, but we had to put in the record for this one too, there's no duplexes, no multifamily residential, there's no apartment buildings. It's single-family agricultural business.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of rental property, long-term rental property, just up the road. And then around the corner, there is an apartment complex. It's a dead-end road, so the only people coming in and out are the people that live on that road. There's not a lot of traffic on the road.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant from the board? Thank you, ma'am. Any opposition to this request? Motion, please.
Make a motion, we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-21 for a short-term rental located at 1098 Bent T. Johns Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zoning which is proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and it otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And I feel like it's compatible with the rural area in which it exists.
It's a proper motion.
Okay. Motion, Dr. Fitz, second
Second.
by Ms. Price.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes?
Mr. Howell,
No, because it's like the other one, I think it'd be a safety issue because of the curb right there.
Mr. Lockwood,
No, on account of, I don't think it meets the zoning ordinance on account of its residential area.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
No, it is not compatible with the single-family uses of that neighborhood. Ma'am, your request has been denied. You've got 30 days to appeal to Circuit Court. Our next request tonight, JK Investment Holdings LLC, care of Kenneth Skeen, have filed concurrent applications for a conditional use permit for a commercial kennel and a variance of 417 feet from the minimum required setback of 500 feet from any residential district or use for a commercial kennel on the property located at 1768 Mount Lebanon Road. This property is zoned AG Agricultural. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in March for the property you just referenced, located at 1768 Mount Lebanon Road. The current zoning, as you mentioned, is agriculture, and the current use is also agriculture. And this is the exhibit that was supplied with the application, and I'll reference that here in just a minute when we get to the variance request. Again, the applicants are applying for a conditional use permit for a commercial kennel in order to continue operating an existing dog boarding business. And the applicants are also requesting a variance of 417 feet from the minimum required setback of 500 feet from any residential district, use, or structure for the kennel. And if you look at the exhibit, that variance, they've pointed out the closest distance to the nearest residence, and that's in this general area here. Looking at the zoning ordinance reference, you can see in section 5.1 in our use table that the conditional use permit is required to operate a commercial kennel in the ag zone. And then you'll also see the required setbacks that are referenced in section 524F5A, and that is where it's required that any building or area used for such purposes, including any pens or exercise runways, shall be located at least 500 feet from any residential district, use, or structure. On page 2, you'll see that the applicants provided 5 conditions as a part of their application. Number 1 limits the hours of operation for drop-off and pickup from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday through Saturday. Dogs will be present on the property 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Number 2, no dogs will be allowed outside after 9 p.m. Number 3, there will be a maximum of 40 dogs. Number 4, there will be no more than 12 dogs outside simultaneously. And number 5, dogs will remain confined to the fenced areas, the existing garage being used as a dog kennel, and the possible future kennel expansion. That's shown on the exhibit as well, up on the top end of the exhibit here. And then looking at section 394, that just outlines the conditional use permit findings, and those are there for your reference. Similarly, we have the variance findings below that section of the staff report, and those are referenced in KRS section 100.243. And the applicants did supply a brief narrative as a part of their application, and that's included on page 3 for your reference. That's the italicized text there. And then the board should consider if the applicants have adequately addressed the findings required for granting the variance. The applicants have referenced buffering between the kennel and adjacent residential structures. However, there are no structures or vegetation between the two properties along the fenced outdoor area. And then looking back on page 1, we have a few points for your consideration. First, the board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area and residential uses that are adjacent to the property. Second, the board should consider if the proposed use will be disturbing to present surrounding land uses due to noise, odor, or other general nuisance, as the applicants have applied for a concurrent variance application to reduce the typical required setback for such use from 500 to 83 feet. The board should consider if a reduction of this extent will allow for an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations, as the zoning ordinance imposes a 500-foot setback to ensure that a use of this type is compatible with surrounding residential properties. Next, there are no special circumstances that apply to this agriculturally zoned piece of property when compared with other ag zone properties of similar size that are located in the general vicinity. And last, the applicants were advised by staff of the zoning ordinance requirements, including the conditional use permit requirement and required setbacks, prior to purchasing the property and prior to operating the existing commercial kennel. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions of the staff from the board? Applicant, it must be you. Give us your full name and address, please.
Stephen Stone, 1768 Mount Lebanon Road, Alberton.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes.
Have you been operating this already as a business?
We've been operating on a smaller scale outside the scope of the commercial kennel thresholds.
What made you think you could open up a business without getting any permits or license or approvals or, I mean?
There were no license or permits applicable to a business operating with 5 or less dogs, 6 months old or less, that I was privy to, nor were there any written.
Okay. So you only had up to 5 dogs is what you're saying?
Correct.
Sorry.
Clear, the zoning ordinance classifies a lesser number of dogs as a personal-oriented retail service, which is still not, it's still considered a commercial use. It's not considered a commercial kennel, but it's not permitted in an ag zone.
Okay. And you're going to have up to 40 dogs there?
That is the maximum, including the proposed addition.
If you get 40 dogs before you get the proposed addition, where are you going to put them?
With the proposed addition?
If you get that many dogs before you get your building built, your proposed addition?
We don't. We have a self-imposed limit of 20 in our current configuration.
In the garage?
Correct.
Is there any soundproofing in this garage at all?
There's drywall and insulation and exterior.
So there's not any soundproofing per se?
No, there's not literally soundproofing, but there are panels that deaden sound.
How are you going to handle the waste from all these animals, inside and outside?
We dispose of it in the garbage, much like
How?
the county.
How do you?
We bag it.
So you go around, you're going to have 12 dogs in the backyard, you're going around 10 hours a day and pick up poop 10 hours a day and put in the bag?
If that's what it takes, very similar to the local parks, the dog parks and stuff. You know, we dispose of it in bags.
And there is a 500-foot requirement for kennels, and the reason for that is to protect the adjoining property owners.
Yes, we understand
Because you're talking 75 foot away, which is, I mean, there's no protection for them whatsoever.
Yes.
You're not concerned about the noise? Obviously, the neighbors aren't here, but, which surprised me, but,
I'm not at all concerned about the noise because we also live on the property and we keep the noise to a minimum. And the 75 feet is technically from just the corner of the fenced-in property that they sometimes have access to. And up to this point, we have had no issues with noise or no complaints from any neighbors or no complaints that we're aware of or no issues that have arisen.
but you've only had 5 dogs. You don't have 40 and
Well, we've had
have
5 guest
12.
dogs we own for ourselves also. And we on occasion have had technically more than 5 dogs because some of the dogs that we have are under 6 months old.
So are you a veterinarian, or do you have experience in kennel business?
No, I'm not a vet or any sort of,
Do you have any experience housing dogs, doing this type of business
yeah.
here in Bowling Green?
No, I've owned dogs my entire life. Like I said, my wife and I own 4 dogs. We're also foster parents, so we're very familiar with housing
Okay.
living creatures and
40
taking care
dogs,
of-
a lot of dogs.
That's a lot.
We own a lot. Yeah, we own 4 dogs.
No, 40 dogs is a lot
40?
of dogs.
Yeah, it sounds like it
and
until you
12
see how that works. Some of the other kennels here have been approved for like hundreds of dogs in much similar circumstances.
And 12 dogs in a backyard is a lot of dogs in a backyard.
I
Now, the noise may not
disagree
bother
with
you, but
it's a little over a quarter-acre fenced in right
but
there.
you know, they're not running around the whole quarter of an acre. You've got them confined to one area
That is a quarter of an acre.
that's fenced in
Correct.
in the backyard.
Correct.
Okay. But there's not any, it's just a chain link fence around it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Which doesn't hold back very much noise, does it?
No, but again, there hasn't been any issue with noise. Like I said, we live there too, and we stay there full-time and operate this business, and like I said, we have foster children. So like, we control the noise because we are also affected by it.
Okay. Any other questions of the board, from the board of the applicant? Questions? Any opposition? Being none, motion, please.
I make a motion that we deny the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-22 for a commercial kennel located at 1768 Mount Lebanon Road. The use would be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare in the zone which is proposed. The use will result in environmental problems and constitute a nuisance. And the use does not otherwise meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Dr. Fish, could you also address the
And I do not feel like that this is compatible with the location.
That is a proper motion.
Okay. No, we gave you a chance. Motion by Dr. Fitz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell, Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Your request has been denied, sir. Thank you for coming down. All righty, any new, old business first? Oh, there you are. I keep looking down there for you, Hoy. Any old business
No,
tonight?
sir, we're still in sit and wait mode.
Any new business? New business? And we're adjourned.